Ordinary Gods,
Let's go.
Ordinary People podcast. My name is Ashlyn Everard, and I am super excited to have my dad on the podcast today. Woo,
Woo!
Dad! How are you, Dad?
I'm doing great. How are you, Ash?
I'm good. So before I used to start these with an icebreaker, but I feel like I still want to start them with some kind of question. What is your go-to disc golf course in Florida?
Oh, man. Well, right now, I would say the DeBerry one in
Why?
DeBerry, Florida. Because it's close to home. It's got 36 holes, and it's got some technical holes and some long holes, so you can kind of work on your whole game.
What got you into disc golf?
Retirement. Something to do. Something to do to get outside and clear my head, and it's less frustrating than real golf by a little bit and less expensive.
That is fair. So on this podcast, we like to talk about God and everything that He's doing in our lives, but also like how you grew up and what that looked like in the church. So let's talk about little Doug. What did Dad look like growing up, and when did you kind of go into the church and kind of find your faith with God?
Growing up, I would say church was more the big holidays and occasionally, probably about 12 weeks a year, let's say that.
Okay.
Always did like Christmas and Easter, and then we would probably meet my mom's mother, grandmother Lottie, probably about once a month for church at Delaney Baptist. And really that was my exposure to church for the most part. For most of my growing up, it wasn't until I really got to college that I kind of found I had a roommate in college that had a very strong faith. Still does today. I haven't spoken to Matt in a long time, but that was really growing up. That was my exposure to it. What we got at home really wasn't. I'm not going to say not a lot, but we weren't every Sunday, and I think a lot of it was my dad worked a lot during our growing up, and Sundays were usually like his one day he got to sleep in some ways. So, yeah.
Do you feel like in college, what was the shift? Was it Matt inviting you a lot more, or was it just kind of realizing that you wanted to go more or needed to go more?
I think Matt played a big part in, wanting to start a Bible study, and as roommates, he would have it in our room, and exposed me more to it through him and the head resident of the dorm at the time, who I can't remember the name of, but Matt, and then we joined the Baptist Student Union there at the school up in North Georgia where I went to school at.
Cool. So on the podcast with Mom, she said that she knew about God, which is kind of what you were saying, but it wasn't until she had kids that it really like hit and settled in. Would you say that was the same thing for you, or was college kind of that turning point?
I think college was more the turning point. When I went off to school in August of '88, and got paired with Matt as my roommate. By late January of that year, I had gone to a Baptist student retreat and had given my life to Christ at that retreat. And then that following May, at the church I was going to at the time, ended up getting baptized in the church. And that kind of was a start of where it was, still being new I won't say Matt and I had a falling out, but being new, I don't know that I had a lot of, I would say, guidance through the church. It was kind of like, there you go, you're baptized, you're welcome. But I was still 18, 19 years old and away from home for the first time and trying to figure that stuff out too. And, Matt actually approached me and said, the way you're living is a direct reflection of us as roommates in a way too, because I would still like to go out and have a beer every once in a while, even though I wasn't old enough. And, Matt would call me on it. And so by our sophomore years, we were still friends, but we weren't roommates. Mm. And going through the Baptist Student Union and, to the Baptist Church, I'd met some other friends who were Methodists. So I decided, well, let me try that. And there in North Georgia at that time, and maybe it's different now, I don't know. If you were part of the Baptist Student Union, you could only do any missions or any retreats with them if you were in the Baptist church. And at that time, I was going to the Methodist church. So they would allow us to come to the meetings, but they wouldn't allow us to partake in any of the extracurricular activities outside of, what was on campus. So I would going to the Methodist church, and I actually stayed in the Methodist church all the way through my senior year. And I had a good time. And, I won't say I was super active, but we would go probably 2 to 3 Sundays a month through college. And I had a group of friends that would go to church every Sunday. And, that's kind of was the start of it. And then we came home, and within 3 months of graduating, I was married to your mother.
Woohoo.
Woohoo. Exactly.
What brought you then to the Lutheran church? Because that's where we grew up in. So were you always at St. Luke's before we were even born, or just...
Oh, no, we weren't at St. Luke's before you were born. We were, honestly, we went to Prince of Peace a little bit, but then that's where we ended up getting married at. And that's where, Grandma and Papa ended up at. Okay. And my parents, at that time hadn't really, I won't say they didn't settle into a church, because they had settled in a little bit, but Papa had kind of broken off even from the Lutheran church, and we ended up at Northland.
Oh, okay.
Through probably the late 90s, probably all the way up through the mid 2015s, 2015 maybe, 14, 15, somewhere in that range. And kind of once you hit middle school or high school, maybe high school, you and your brother were looking for an opportunity to sleep in a little bit more.
Hey, sounds just like your family growing up.
What? So we pivoted to St. Luke's, and we've been there, and it was, I won't say convenient. I mean, obviously it's close to home, and it's a nice church to go to. And, that was, kind of how we settled back into St. Luke's. I don't really look at denomination as much as I just look at God. Because I don't look at God as a Baptist or Methodist or Lutheran or Presbyterian or Episcopalian. I look at God as being God. You believe in who God is as our Father, and who his son is as our Lord and Savior, more so than the denomination at the end of whatever the church you go to is.
That makes sense.
Um, and
What
we done.
what did that look like in your first couple years married, just coming into your faith?
No, I mean, Mom and I would go to church as much as we could. She would work when we worked a lot when we first got married. I mean, she worked at the hotel, and she would work the 3 to 11 shift, and I would work. When I was at that time, I think I was working at Kmart, and I had shifts all over the place where might go to work at 7 in the morning and work till 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and then the next day I might go in at 1 and work till closing. It just depended. There was never a set schedule. So being in retail, I would work weekends, and Mom working at the hotel, she would work weekends. So there's a lot of times that, I won't say we were very consistent at first. And a lot of it was just schedule, just trying to figure out work and just timing. So we would go as much as we could, but Papa Duda and Grandma Duda, they were very consistent and stuff, and we'd spend a lot of time with them, when we could, and even with my mom and dad before they moved up to North Carolina. Um, and so we were surrounded by people who had, I feel, strong faith, but it took a little while before we kind of settled in to a point where we had more consistency. It probably wasn't until I left Kmart and ended up at Enterprise that I had at least Sundays off every week. I might work Monday through Saturday, but I always had Sundays off. So that's when we kind of got a little bit more consistent in going to church.
Throwback to Kmart. They don't have those anymore.
I know. That was probably my first real job out of college. When I graduated, I was still working out at the airport as a sky cap back in the day. I carried bags for passengers and stuff when they would come in on vacations and help them with their travel and getting luggage that they don't even really have many sky caps anymore in that sense where you could check bags on the curb for people going out on outgoing flights in the late 80s and early 90s. And I decided I'd gotten to college, so I might as well get a job that I didn't have when I was still in high school.
That's smart.
So I ended up at Kmart for about 2 years.
Wow.
I know. That was crazy. I was the operations manager for them for 2 years at the store in St. Cloud, Florida.
That's crazy. You guys live by St. Cloud?
Yeah, it was a long drive from where we lived. At the time, it was driving about probably, I say long drive, it was probably like a 30 or 40-minute commute, depending on traffic, even back then. And I spent 2 years with them, and it was good. But I had saw the writing on the wall even in the mid '90s that Kmart probably was not going to be around very long, and I realized pretty quickly too that retail was not how I wanted to make a living.
That's fair.
Just because of the hours and just the stress in it.
It is very stressful. So is hospitality with mom. So that's probably a lot of stress coming into the house too.
We did.
But how did kids switch your faith, or did it grow, or what did that look like once you started having kids?
I mean, obviously, it gave us more responsibility to kind of want to settle down and, obviously, we wanted to raise you in the church as much as possible, and faith was, at that time for Mom and I, we kind of had moved around in our careers a little bit. I was actually 2000. I would have been at Enterprise Rent a Car in 2000. Still working a lot, but like I said, I had Sundays off, and by 2000, I'm pretty sure Mom had moved into the medical field out of the hotel business. So we had at least Sundays off. I worked every other Saturday at whatever location I was in. So it gave us at least a more consistent day that we could go to church and spend time together. And obviously it was very important, and it was a way to spend time with seeing family, because Aunt Ange and Aunt Michelle and Uncle Heath and Uncle Darren and Grandma and Grandpa were at the same church at that time, and so it was kind of a nice way to see family and spend time together, and also, grow in our faith a little bit.
What did it look like with you as it got older with your faith? Because, I feel like even just hearing your story now, it's grown so much.
You know, when we were at Northland, you know, I won't say, we got super involved with any, small groups or anything, but we had done some missions trips. I had had the opportunity to go to Brazil for a week, and do some missionary work down there, and live, go up the river and meet, a lot of interesting people, and help build a church and some pastor houses. And then we did the 2 trips to Jamaica, and just kind of seeing how other people were living versus how we got to live here. It was very eye-opening. It lets you know that, God's everywhere. God's not, just in big houses or, in cities. He's in the middle of the rainforest, or he's up on a mountain in Jamaica with people who have very little to nothing, but they have a lot of faith. And you have to be willing to step outside of your comfort zone in order to, find God sometimes. And I've always said, God's going to get you where he wants you, whether you go willingly or you go kicking and screaming. You look at Jonah, and you may not always like the message God wants you to give or the message that God's giving you. But if God has that, he's going to get you where he needs you. And so I always put my faith in the fact that even if I'm stubborn, God is gentle and kind to a point, and then God will be happy to slap you in the back of the head and say, "No, stupid, it's right here."
Or eat you like a fish and spit you out 3 days later. Do
Yes.
the easy way or the hard way?
So, um, try to stay as consistent as I can in my faith, and that's, it's not always perfect, and it's not always consistent, but I know that God is the right answer, and I know that God is the truth, and I know Jesus is the only way there.
What are some ways that's helped you stay more consistent over the years?
Obviously being surrounded with good family and friends, my mom and dad, their faith has grown up exponentially, from what I saw as a kid, and prayer, and obviously, Grandma and Grandpa Duda, and I got to see, the consistency of, I've been very fortunate that I've had consistency in my life. And so as seeing consistency of having a mom and dad who'll be married 60 years this September, and seeing the consistency of, mom's mom and dad, and, the love that they got to share for the time that they had together, which would have been 61 years last year. And then your mom and I will be 34 years this year. So seeing that consistency and having consistent role models, and, at least from parental figures in our lives, gave me the want and desire to show some more consistency, in my prayer life and even in my reading of the Bible. And the Bible is actually super interesting when you read it. You kind of look at a lot of the stories and you kind of run the numbers, especially like in the Old Testament, when you can run the numbers that Adam and Abraham were alive at the same time.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that passed between them, that those stories from the garden got passed forward, over 900 years of people on the earth in Adam's life to, his death. He lived over 900 years or close to it. That, you see, the truth that's there and how it got moved forward. So you look for the consistency that you can, and obviously we wanted to raise you and your brother, the best way we could. And, we knew that having a firm foundation in the church was the best thing we could do for you and your brother, to give you that foundation.
I think you raised us pretty well.
We did our best, and, we're not perfect, and, and we never will be, but we did the best we could, or best we knew to do. Through the situations that came up.
That's
I was, like I said, it was great, especially as I was able to kind of move my career around and ended up, at Duda for the last 19 years before I retired in December.
Yeah, retirement. Let's go.
I know retirement is it's different, but it's fun. I mean, I've got more time, and I'm looking for ways to utilize that. And, it's a process, and it's like anything else. Is you go through those processes, you learn and you grow, and 5 months into it now, I don't regret walking away from work.
No.
And but I also look at the work as frustrating as it was in some ways. It was such a blessing in others, because all the hard work I'd done up to that point, and the long hours I'd done at Kmart or Enterprise, or even when I worked at North American Crane for those, mostly 5-year stints, except, were a lot of hours. And Duda gave me the flexibility to watch you and your brother grow up and be able to go to events and coach soccer and go to practices and be a part of your life that I didn't get for the first 10 years of my life, because my dad worked for UPS, and
Yeah.
it wasn't until he opened the bowling alley that we got more time together. And even then, he was gone a lot on with his work schedule, even at the bowling alley, but we at least got to go down there and see him. And as we got older, work down there and be around our parents, at least in a working environment, and had more time with him, than we did when he was at UPS. So that was very important to me, as well as I watched the sacrifices he made to get more time with his family. It was very important for me to have more time with mine
Yeah.
and stuff. And
We
I
were
wouldn't.
always there. There wasn't really anything that you ever missed.
I would at least make the highlights of your recitals. It's like I told mom. Yeah,
Well,
I
the
got to
dance
sit through.
recitals, those are like 4 hours, and I'm like one kid on the stage for like 3 minutes.
Exactly, but I would bring a brother when he was small. He was my excuse to have to come late and get to leave early.
Well, that's fair.
So find out where you were in the process of it and
2 to 5
pop in,
at that
see
age.
what I needed to, and pop out.
Well, I also don't think Ryan at 2 years old would be able to sit through that. I don't think
Probably
Ryan
not.
22 could have
He
sat
didn't.
through that. Shout
I
out
could have sat through it, but Ryan would have been difficult,
Ryan.
to say the least.
But you got through soccer, and then we could sit through those at least.
No, when we got soccer, I mean, obviously, that was, you know,
Dramatic.
it wasn't really dramatic. It was a joy to get to watch you guys play and enjoy things you like to do. I mean, and yes, it's devastating when you see your kid get hurt and not get to do the things they want. And, it's like I always said, I don't care what you guys do with your time, but we're going to do something, whether you want to play soccer or dance or whatever it is. We're just not sitting around. But my main rule was at the end of each season, we're going to make a commitment whether or not this is what we want to do again. Because if we make that commitment, we're finishing the season.
Okay.
So just know that when we sign up, unless it's just really bad and a really toxic environment, we're playing the entire season. And, soccer to me was a joy to watch you play. And, I coached Ryan, or I helped coach Ryan. I was the assistant, chaos wrangler.
Oh, yeah.
But I knew Ryan was getting tired of playing soccer, that wasn't necessarily the sport he needed to gravitate to. And I was ready to be done coaching. So when he was done, he moved into basketball. And, at that point, I got to just be a parent on the sideline watching my kid play versus being a coach, having to wrangle 12 or 13 6 to 11-year-olds.
Yeah.
Around on the fields. And when you're doing that, you don't get to enjoy your kid as much playing as the parent sitting on the sideline.
That's fair.
So when I, stepped away from that, during Ryan's last season, it was kind of nice. It was a nice relief to just get to be a parent on the sideline and, watch your kid grow up versus, and let somebody else kind of help mold and take them and things. And, I've seen a lot of things over time, and God brings people into your life for different seasons, whether it's for 5 minutes or, your whole life.
Yeah.
And, they all add something to it, both good and bad. And the bad's not bad because you can learn from it, and that was one of the things that I learned too, with the multiple jobs I had, kind of figuring out where I wanted to be. Because I had good bosses and I had bad bosses.
Yep.
And then even the bad bosses had positives that I could take. And then you also learn how you didn't want to be treated, so you didn't treat people that way. So, you can learn, even in the worst situations, a lot of positives.
Yeah.
Because everything's not always, going to be easy. And not everything is always going to be perfect. Mm-hmm. And it's still not, even with retirement, it's still not perfect. It's, it's just different. You figure out how you're going to utilize your time and your days. And So far I've been able to stay pretty active and been pretty busy, but I know there's still more that I can do, and there's more I need to get involved in
Yeah.
and stuff. And I'm waiting on those doors to open and figure that out.
That'd be awesome. Well, the internet will know by now. How excited are you to be a grandpa?
The internet will know by now.
Yeah, the internet will know probably
Oh
like 2
man,
weeks before this comes out.
Grandpa Double G is very excited.
Grandpa Double G. Yeah, Grandpa Double G. And before you
Although
ask,
we're also
there's a
trying to
G
figure
in
out what the
Doug,
double,
there's a G in register.
we're trying to figure out what the G's are, but hey, that's okay. But
Grandpa Double G, greatest grandpa.
oh man, that's it.
I just came
Well,
up.
how's Jerry gonna take that if I'm the greatest?
He just doesn't have to know what they stand
Oh, okay, just
for.
wondering.
Unless he listens, then he'll know.
We're all gonna be in trouble.
It's okay. I
Yeah,
used to call him Poopaw.
Poopaw.
Yes.
Oh man, I don't know about that. I'll take Grandpa Double G
Double G.
over Poopaw. So definitely, no, I'm very, very excited. We're looking forward to, as I call him now, Baby E, little Ace, coming into the world when God's timing is perfect. I'm very, very excited for you and Ike and watching your family grow and how God's going to continue to bless you guys as you start this journey of marriage and
Yeah.
your faith continues to grow and you get to raise your kids, however many you decide to have, and getting to watch them grow into the young people that prayerfully we'll get to watch too.
Yeah. Well, this will be my last question, but if anyone's listening or watching and kind of is still on the fence about their faith or still new, like you were back in college, what would you say to them?
I would say to them, God is real. He's not made up. There's too much truth to the fact that if you're interested or wanting to explore your faith, find a church you can trust. Find someone you can trust to ask the questions you have. Know that God is patient and forgiving, and you don't have to be perfect because you're never going to be perfect. That it's not a matter of saying I have to give up everything in my life in order to follow Jesus. All Jesus is asking you to do is follow him, and he'll put the things in your life that you need. He'll surround you with the right people, and he'll surround you with the love and the resources, and that even when you mess up or you think you're not good enough, you are, because God's already paid for it. He sent his son Jesus into this world, and he took our sins to that cross. And there's nothing we can do that will ever be able to repay that. That all we can do is say thank you and know that each and every day Jesus intercedes on our behalf to his Father for us. That forgiveness is there. All we have to do is ask for it.
Yeah.
And that no matter what you think you're going through or the challenges you think you have in life, there's already somebody who's been there, who's been forgiven, and is willing to be willing to show you that grace and that mercy as well. That people are inherently good, and so to trust the process and just don't think you have to know it all at one time. Faith is a journey. It's not, hey, I'm cramming for a final exam. That you're going to continue to grow each and every day. and you're going to question yourself a lot of days too as to, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right place? So, yes, just know that faith is a journey in God, and you're going to learn every day that you want to allow God to be a part of your life and just put your roots deep in Him. That way, when the storms come, you are prepared.
That's good. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
You are
I
welcome.
know this isn't your kind of thing, but I really appreciate it.
You are welcome. And glad I could come on and be a part of it.
Well, Ryan's going to be on it too soon, so I'm very curious to hear his story.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
No. But thank you again.
You're welcome. I love you.
I love you
I
too.
love Ike. Love baby E.
Yeah, Ike's downstairs. He's eating breakfast.
Nice. Good for him.
But
Yes.
thank you again, and everyone that's listening. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye, guys.
Bye.